Okay, guys, let's talk. I took 2 weeks off from posting on social media. I took a week off from being on social media, and honestly, I needed it. So, I'm going to talk about boundaries today. And honestly, I don't know, or I mean, I know boundaries get spoken about, but I don't think they get spoken about enough. And I think ultimately, like, we don't talk about boundaries enough, not just with relationships or friendships, but ultimately with, I don't know, just everyday life, maybe with career, with things that we have in our everyday lives, to be honest with you. And I'm going to talk about how I honestly needed to create a boundary with social media because I sometimes feel like it is not good for my mental health. And I feel like it's probably like that for a lot of people. And, although I really enjoy it for, the needs to help other people and like get my word out there to help others and share my stories and to help other people relate. I think that there's also other things that can also be, I guess, damaging, in other words. Like, I feel like there's things that we could be doing other than just like spending our time on social media. And, I feel like it kind of sounds backwards for me to be talking about this while posting on social media, but like, I'm definitely going to get there and get to my point. So, I'm just going to go fast forward to talking about it from like past 2 weeks ago. So, I kind of, obviously have been posting like these past, I don't know, few months. And, not only have I been progressively trying to post or like actively trying to post and, put information out there to help with people's mental health, but I just started to notice that me personally, my mental health started to decline because of how much effort I was trying to put into this, which is not an issue, but I think it's great that I want to help others, but you know, there's something that has to be balanced in a way. And I felt like for me, I was not getting or feeding myself back, if that makes sense, or taking the time for myself to take care of my mental health in those times. I feel like I would just overdo it when it came to social media. And I've known in the past that social media has made me feel this way. So, that being said, I was like, I think I just need to take a step back. And, social media is always going to be there. So, I was like, let's just take a week off, and it ended up being 2 weeks. So, that being said, I needed to create that boundary for myself because I started to feel brain fog, less clarity. I would wake up in the morning, I would immediately scroll at night, immediately scroll before bed. And it almost felt like an addiction at that point. And for me, before posting so much on social media, like I wasn't, I didn't really have TikTok or Instagram. Or no, I'm sorry, take that back. I had Instagram, but I wasn't actively scrolling or actively like posting like that, if that makes sense. And same with TikTok. It was like I was downloading the app every once in a while just to like maybe look up information on things or like to just see what my friends were sending me because I had friends still sending me things on TikTok even though I told them like I literally don't have the app, but they would still send me things, so I would just look to see what they would send me. And then I would just go back to deleting the app because I just didn't find any value in having the app at the time. But now that I have it again, I, see the value, or I find value in how I can, be making content or helping other people, you know? Or just even putting myself out there more and getting out of my comfort zone. So, but I think it all has to come with boundaries and, how much I want to, put out there. And also just taking mental health breaks for myself because, like I said, I literally like had so much brain fog, and I literally couldn't even think straight sometimes. I was like, oh my gosh, like why am I literally like, why do I feel the need to immediately go and like go on my phone? Like I was literally getting anxiety. Like I could tell that my relationship was just like off. And I feel like this could go into another point with my relationships with other people, to be honest. This goes into another point. So, boundaries with people. Now, I feel like this is a totally separate conversation. And I feel like this is something that I've wanted to talk about for a while, and creating boundaries with other people, because I feel like it's so important to create healthy space and healthy boundaries with others. And I feel like I'm learning a lot about this, especially as I get older, because I felt like, you know, as someone who can be a people pleaser, because, I always just want to do the best for others and help others. And like, I don't know. I feel like that's just kind of like my personality, but maybe I'm sure as people who are also people pleasers, maybe we just take it a little bit too far. Um, but I think that I've also had to learn where my, I guess, triggers are and things that bother me, and learn to, you know, explain my needs and what I need from other people, because what you might need, someone else might not need, or what might bother you might not bother other people. So, but those who understand you and are willing to show up in the way that you need, like those will be your people, you know? And, you know, we, how do I say this? As like those people, like in your friendships and relationships, like they'll be able to respect that in the way that you need, in the way that you want them to show up for you, and vice versa. So, I guess like a good example like could be like for me, like consistency is really important for me, and I think that in a friendship or a relationship, I really value connection. And so like I know we could go into love languages and stuff like that, but like I really value quality time. And so if that is something that another friendship or another person values, I feel like we'll be able to really connect in that way. And so even if I can't hang out with that person all the time, even just scheduling a time to like talk on the phone, or scheduling a time to meet up, or whatever the case is, or even just reassuring or validating that like, hey, look, like I'm not going to be available during like this time or whatever, like giving reasons to like, hey, look, like I have this going on, but like I'll be good. But like always showing up and following through like your word like is really important to me. Um and me showing up as well. So yeah, I feel like for me consistency is something that is really important to me, and something that I feel like I need in a friendship or in a relationship. So, I feel like that all goes back to like safety and like security and like finding that in future relationships or friendships. And those people who value that and can also connect with that will be your people. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like it's all relative. And if they can speak your language, like y'all will be locked in. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, it's all relative, and what someone else might need, like you might not need. Like for some people, like consistency and connection is like not that big, or their love language is not quality time or whatever. Like that's just a whole separate thing. Anyways, um, but like I was saying, I guess that like all kind of like goes into like boundaries, and like I said, like I'm learning so much about this right now, and like how to navigate and explore and attracting healthy like relationships. And I feel like when you're going through your healing journey and trying to attract like healthy relationships or navigate that, it can sometimes feel really, really lonely. And yeah, that's really all I have to say. But um yeah, I don't really know, because I think as you learn like more of like what you want and need as like a person who is trying to find like healthier relationships and friendships, it's just like you kind of start to notice like what starts to like piss you off, and you're like, okay, I don't want to deal with that anymore. You're like, oh, like it has nothing really to do with like the other person, to be honest. Like they can go do whatever they want, like, you know what I'm saying? Like if they're okay with like what's going on in their lives, like that's great. But as an individual, you know what you need and what you want in your life. And if that person cannot show up for the way that like you need or want, like maybe y'all just are not locked in, and maybe you guys just are not on the same path or journey at the moment, and that is perfectly okay. And it can hurt, it can suck, and as a person who has been through all of that in friendships and relationships, it freaking sucks. But it's just all about like a learning process, and you're never left with nothing because you're always learning something through the process. So remember that. But that is all I have to say, because literally I'm currently learning it right now, and I can't wait to share more about my experiences, my learning lessons, and my journey. But that is literally why I've been like MIA, because I just feel like I've been like going through the trenches right now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing more, but I will see you guys soon, and I can't wait to share more.